I thought it was just an innocent mistake, something I could easily brush aside and forget. But I was wrong. That day was only the first step into a world I never imagined I'd enter. A world of secrets, forbidden desire, and an emotional chaos I never saw coming. Even now, as I begin this story, I can feel my pulse racing. This isn't merely my confession, it's the story of my most hidden truth, the one I've kept buried deep inside. Nathan, my stepfather, always had an undeniable charisma, the kind that fills a room without a word. Quiet, yet powerful, reserved, yet magnetic. He was my mother Vanessa's second husband, and while he had always been polite, we never shared anything beyond formal pleasantries. Until that night. Vanessa had gone out with friends, leaving Nathan and me alone in the house. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, just about to slip into a dress when the door creaked softly open. "Sophie?" He spoke gently from the doorway, his voice calm yet unexpectedly intimate. "Your door was open." I froze, heart pounding. He stood there, eyes fixed on me in a way that made it impossible to move, impossible to breathe. Seconds stretched into eternity, charged with an unspoken tension. "I'm sorry," he finally said, though his voice betrayed something deeper than regret. He slowly closed the door, but his presence lingered, leaving me unsettled and intrigued. I told myself it meant nothing, a simple misunderstanding. Yet days later, at a wedding, I found myself unable to look away as Nathan moved confidently through the crowd, effortlessly charming. When Vanessa casually suggested Nathan dance with me, the room seemed to narrow to just the two of us, his hand resting gently on my waist, his gaze intense and searching. "You feel it too, don't you?" Nathan whispered softly as our bodies moved in harmony, igniting a spark that couldn't be denied. I wanted to dismiss it, to pretend none of this was real. But deep down, I knew it was already too late. The boundary had blurred, the line crossed. What happened next wasn't just complicated. It was forbidden, dangerous, irresistible, and it changed my life forever. I'd always believed certain boundaries were unbreakable, lines clearly drawn, never to be crossed. But ever since that evening, when Nathan accidentally stepped into my room, all my carefully built defenses began to unravel. Nathan was my stepfather, a man who effortlessly captured attention wherever he went. Quiet yet commanding, he exuded a quiet authority that made even simple conversations feel charged. Despite living under the same roof, we'd never been particularly close. My mother, Vanessa, remarried Nathan after years of loneliness, finding joy again in his quiet strength. I respected him, but our relationship rarely went beyond polite small talk and distant courtesy. Everything shifted that one quiet evening. Vanessa had gone out with friends, leaving Nathan and me alone in the house, a scenario that was entirely ordinary until it wasn't. Standing in front of my bedroom mirror, clad only in my underwear, I was about to slip into a dress when the gentle creak of my door startled me. "Sophie," came Nathan's voice, unexpectedly soft yet undeniably present. "Your door was open." My heart pounded violently, frozen mid-motion. Turning slightly, I found Nathan's eyes locked onto mine, an intensity within them I'd never seen before. Neither of us moved, neither spoke. The seconds stretched endlessly, filled with a tension I couldn't decipher. Embarrassment? Confusion? Or something far more dangerous? "I'm sorry," Nathan finally said, quietly breaking the heavy silence. Yet his apology didn't quite ring with regret. There was hesitation, as though he was reluctant to retreat. Slowly, he stepped back, his hand lingering on the door handle just a moment too long, his gaze taking one final sweep across my barely covered form before pulling the door closed behind him. I stood trembling, trying to calm my racing heart. This wasn't right. He was my stepfather. Yet the electricity of that brief moment refused to fade. I replayed it repeatedly in my mind, analyzing every nuance, the way his eyes lingered, the subtle quiver in his voice, the undeniable pull I felt toward him in those brief, dangerous seconds. Days passed, and what I desperately hoped was an isolated incident continued to haunt me. I struggled to maintain my composure around Nathan, feeling increasingly vulnerable whenever we crossed paths. Was I imagining the glances he cast my way during dinner, or the warmth that seemed to deepen his voice whenever he addressed me directly? My internal conflict intensified, shame warring fiercely with the powerful desire that had inexplicably taken root within me. Each night I tossed restlessly, unable to shake the memory of Nathan's quiet intrusion, his hesitation, his intensity, the forbidden nature of it all. A part of me longed to dismiss it as a simple misunderstanding, but deep inside, another part, darker and undeniably curious, wondered if Nathan felt the same electric tension, the same irresistible pull. Soon enough, it became clear that accidental intrusion was only the beginning. Boundaries had been breached, and now I realized there was no turning back. In the days following Nathan's accidental entrance into my room, I struggled desperately to dismiss the incident as nothing more than an awkward misunderstanding. Yet despite my best efforts, the memory refused to fade. A subtle shift had occurred within me. Something deep and unsettling had been awakened. Each glance Nathan sent my way, each polite interaction at the dinner table, became charged with meaning. I began noticing details I'd never paid attention to before. His quiet confidence, the way he spoke softly but commanded absolute attention, and how effortlessly he carried himself with a magnetic charm. My emotions were a tangled mess of shame and curiosity. I couldn't reconcile these new feelings with who I thought I was, or who I knew Nathan to be. Sleep became difficult as the moments of silence brought those forbidden thoughts rushing back, amplifying my internal conflict until it consumed me. A few days later, we attended a wedding together. Vanessa had been excited all week, eager to see her friend marry once more. I, however, found myself inexplicably anxious, aware that spending hours in Nathan's presence would be a challenge. At the wedding venue, under strings of shimmering lights and surrounded by joyous laughter, Nathan seemed to shine. He was impeccably dressed, charismatic and poised as ever, effortlessly navigating conversations with guests who clearly admired him. I couldn't help but glance in his direction repeatedly, each stolen look intensifying my inner turmoil. Suddenly, Vanessa turned toward us, her cheerful voice breaking through my thoughts. "Nathan," she said lightly, her smile carefree, "why don't you dance with Sophie? I need to join my friends for a bit." My heart skipped painfully as Nathan looked at me, his eyes unreadable yet compelling. After a brief pause, he smiled gently, stepping toward me with a quiet assurance that made my pulse quicken. "Come on, Sophie," he said softly, extending his hand, eyes warm but guarded. "Maybe you can teach me a few steps." My breath caught, nerves twisting within me, yet I found myself placing my hand in his. As his hand rested lightly but firmly on my waist, every suppressed feeling surged to life again, electrifying the air between us. Nathan's gaze held mine, the intensity undeniable, his presence overpowering my senses. I felt a rush of panic and excitement, wondering if he could sense the emotions that swirled inside me. We moved slowly to the rhythm, caught in a bubble where the music, the crowd, even Vanessa faded away into insignificance. The subtle pressure of his hand, the quiet strength of his touch, it all felt dangerously intimate, heightening my confusion, yet making it impossible to deny the truth. Nathan had stirred something inside me that I was no longer capable of ignoring. As the dance continued, I realized with fearful certainty that the line I promised myself I'd never cross had already started to blur. I was losing control, drawn deeper into a forbidden attraction that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. As we moved slowly across the dance floor, Nathan's eyes stayed locked onto mine, his gaze gentle yet piercing. The warmth of his hand against my waist seemed to send electric pulses through my body, intensifying emotions I struggled desperately to suppress. "You dance beautifully, Sophie," he murmured softly, his voice rich with sincerity. "I never realized how graceful you are." Heat rushed to my cheeks as his compliment resonated within me, deepening my confusion. "I'm just following your lead," I managed quietly, trying to hide the tremble in my voice. Nathan smiled softly, his eyes warm and inviting. "There's more to this than just dancing," he whispered. "You feel it too, don't you? This connection between us." My heart raced, panic and desire colliding within me. Boundaries were shifting dangerously fast, blurring lines I never imagined could fade. Part of me wanted to deny it, to pretend it didn't exist, but the truth was clear, undeniable and overwhelming. Nathan's expression grew serious as we continued to dance. He leaned slightly closer, his voice quieter, tinged with regret. "Sophie, I need to apologize again for what happened the other day. It wasn't my intention to make you feel uncomfortable. I should have been more careful." I hesitated, caught off guard by his sincerity and vulnerability. I looked into his eyes, seeing genuine remorse mixed with something deeper, something that mirrored my own conflicted feelings. "You don't have to apologize," I reassured him softly, my voice barely audible above the music. It wasn't uncomfortable, it was just unexpected. His gaze softened further, relief flickering momentarily in his expression before returning to that gentle intensity. "Still, I should have respected your privacy better. But ever since then, I can't stop thinking about that moment." He paused, studying my face carefully, searching for any sign of discomfort. "I just want to be honest about how I feel." My pulse quickened, a strange thrill rising within me as the walls around us seemed to close in. "Really, Nathan? It's fine," I said again, attempting to reassure him, though my words sounded weak even to my own ears. The reality was clear. I wasn't upset. I was captivated. As the music slowed toward its end, we stood in silence for a moment, lost in a shared gaze that spoke louder than words ever could. Whatever was between us had undeniably deepened, growing stronger with every passing second. I knew we had crossed an invisible line into dangerous territory, yet I couldn't find the strength or desire to turn back. When the music finally stopped, Vanessa returned, smiling brightly as she approached us. "You two looked wonderful out there," she said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the emotional turmoil that simmered just beneath the surface. Her compliment only heightened my embarrassment, but I forced a polite smile. "It was fun," I murmured softly, avoiding Nathan's eyes. He nodded quietly, maintaining his composed exterior, yet I could sense the tension in him, hidden just beneath that calm surface. Vanessa clapped her hands excitedly, already moving on. "Anyway, the girls and I are going out for a bit. Nathan, would you mind taking Sophie home?" Her casual tone betrayed no awareness, or perhaps no concern, for Nathan's feelings. It was clear her priorities lay elsewhere tonight. Nathan's jaw tightened slightly, though he quickly masked it with a gentle smile. "Of course, Vanessa. Have fun." As Vanessa hurried off to join her friends, an uncomfortable silence settled between us. I could sense Nathan's subtle hurt, the sting of being so casually left behind on an evening meant for closeness. My heart ached unexpectedly for him, and I felt a strange pang of guilt for Vanessa's thoughtlessness. The drive home was quiet at first, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken emotion. Nathan stared straight ahead, his fingers gripping the wheel more tightly than necessary, his jaw set in quiet contemplation. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice soft but filled with restrained emotion. "You know, Vanessa can be inattentive sometimes. Nights like these, you'd think a partner should stay by your side." His words hung between us, vulnerable and honest, exposing a deeper loneliness that struck me profoundly. I glanced toward him, suddenly understanding how isolated he must have felt. This strong, composed man quietly nursing his disappointment beneath a mask of strength. "You're right," I whispered softly, trying to offer comfort without stepping further into forbidden territory. "Sometimes people don't realize how important it is to just be there." Nathan nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Exactly, Sophie. It's those small moments that really matter." We fell silent again, yet something had changed, a quiet bond forming between us in that shared moment of honesty. I could feel it clearly now. Nathan's loneliness resonated deeply within me, drawing me even closer to him. As we pulled up to our home, I realized the boundaries I'd promised myself would remain untouched had begun to crumble under the weight of empathy and undeniable attraction. Arriving home, Nathan opened the front door quietly, stepping aside to let me in first. As I moved past him, I paused, a strange impulse overtaking me. Before I could second-guess myself, I softly turned back toward him. "Nathan," I whispered, barely able to hear my own voice. "Would you like to come in for a bit? We could just talk." He hesitated, his eyes meeting mine with a look full of unspoken longing and conflict. "Sophie," he began softly, voice gentle but firm, "I don't think that's a good idea right now." Despite his words, I saw the desire in his eyes, the silent battle he was waging within himself. I nodded slowly, trying to hide my disappointment as he quietly stepped away. Alone in my room, I sat on the edge of my bed, heart racing. I replayed every moment from the wedding, every lingering glance, every touch, every whispered word. The boundaries I desperately tried to maintain seemed thinner now, fragile and dangerously close to collapsing completely. Minutes felt like hours as I struggled to quiet my restless thoughts. Just as I was beginning to regain some composure, the soft creak of my bedroom door opening startled me. I looked up, breath catching sharply in my throat. Nathan stood in the doorway, his eyes filled with determination yet shadowed by uncertainty. "Sophie," he said quietly, stepping just inside the room and closing the door behind him. His voice trembled slightly, revealing a vulnerability I'd never seen from him before. "I need you to hear me out." My pulse raced uncontrollably as I stood, facing him silently, unable to speak. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Ever since that day, the day I accidentally walked into your room, I haven't been able to get you out of my mind." His words were cautious but deeply sincere, charged with emotion and honesty. I've tried to ignore it, to push it aside, but tonight made me realize how impossible that is. My heart pounded fiercely, his confession tearing away the last shreds of doubt and denial within me. Nathan took another careful step forward, eyes locked onto mine, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Sophie. I know it's wrong to feel this way, but I can't pretend any longer. There's something between us, something real and undeniable." I stared into his eyes, feeling the turmoil and longing mirrored in myself. "Nathan," I managed softly, my voice trembling. "I feel it too. I've tried to fight it, to tell myself it's nothing, but I can't. It's too strong." Relief flooded his expression, mixed with fear and hope. He moved closer still, his voice shaking with emotion. "All I know is that you see me, truly see me. Vanessa never understood that part of me, but you do." His vulnerability shattered every remaining boundary within me. My fears, doubts, and confusion faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of connection and honesty. In that quiet, charged moment, we stood face to face, silently acknowledging the forbidden truth we could no longer deny. For a long, charged moment, silence filled the room. Nathan stood motionless, his gaze intense, filled with vulnerability and longing. My heartbeat echoed loudly in my ears, nerves twisting painfully within me. But for the first time, I didn't retreat. I stepped forward instead, courage rising through my uncertainty. "Nathan," I whispered, my voice trembling but resolute, "the day you walked into my room, everything changed. I've tried so hard to ignore it, to convince myself it was nothing, but I can't keep lying to myself." I paused, gathering my courage, eyes locked unwaveringly on his. "I'm drawn to you too. Maybe I've been fighting this attraction longer than I realized, but now I can't deny it." His breath caught softly, surprise and relief flickering across his face. Carefully, cautiously, he moved closer, gently reaching out, his fingertips brushing softly along my cheek, sending a warm, electric shiver through my entire being. "Sophie," he murmured, voice low, filled with barely contained emotion. "You have no idea how long I've wanted to hear you say that." Slowly, inevitably, the distance between us disappeared. When our lips finally touched, every hesitation, every barrier dissolved instantly, leaving only raw honesty and mutual surrender. His kiss was gentle at first, careful and tender, but soon became deeper, filled with an intensity we had both kept restrained for too long. We moved instinctively toward the bed, caught in the gravity of the moment, each touch intensifying the bond growing between us. The room around us faded away, leaving only Nathan and me, lost in each other. His warmth enveloped me, his closeness overwhelming my senses. I felt safe, completely seen and understood, emotions I'd longed for, yet never truly known. As our embrace deepened, our connection felt profound, emotional, and powerful. Every doubt, fear, and hesitation vanished, replaced by a certainty I'd never felt before. This moment was ours alone, genuine and undeniable. We had crossed a boundary we could never uncross, yet neither of us wished to turn back. We had chosen to surrender completely to the forbidden yet irresistible pull that had brought us together, forever changing the course of our lives. As we lay quietly side by side afterward, the gentle rhythm of Nathan's heartbeat beneath my fingertips anchored me to reality, soothing yet amplifying the intensity of our connection. Slowly, I lifted my gaze, searching his eyes, needing answers but fearful of what they might reveal. "You didn't come to my room tonight by accident, did you?" I whispered softly, voice thick with meaning. Nathan's expression grew serious, contemplative, as he met my eyes honestly. "No, He admitted quietly, his fingers gently tracing circles along my shoulder. It wasn't accidental, Sophie. I couldn't pretend anymore. I needed you to know how I felt, no matter the consequences. I took a shaky breath, overwhelmed by both his honesty and the depth of what we'd shared. My voice trembled slightly as I spoke again. But Nathan, what happens next? What does this mean for us? For Vanessa? For everyone? His eyes filled with uncertainty and vulnerability, mirroring my own confusion. He sighed deeply, pulling me gently closer as if afraid to lose me. I don't know, Sophie. I truly don't. All I know right now is that what we have feels incredibly real, more real than anything I've experienced before. His raw honesty brought tears to my eyes, yet comforted me. Despite the unknowns, his sincerity was undeniable, anchoring us together in a moment filled equally with hope and anxiety. I'm scared, I admitted softly, voice barely audible. I don't know how to face what comes next. How can we possibly handle this? Nathan held me tighter, his embrace protective, reassuring. We can't predict the future, he said quietly. Maybe it's impossible. Maybe we're setting ourselves up for pain. But Sophie, in this moment, here with you, I've never felt more certain about how deeply connected we are. That has to mean something. I closed my eyes, resting against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, allowing it to calm the storm within me. We both knew our future was uncertain, dangerously complicated, filled with risk and turmoil. Yet neither of us wanted to let go, unwilling to surrender the powerful connection we'd discovered. As we lay silently together, lost in thoughts and intertwined emotions, I knew one thing for sure. Our journey had only just begun. No matter how uncertain the path ahead, there was no turning back now. In the quiet aftermath, as Nathan gently brushed my hair away from my face, the weight of what we had done settled between us. The future stretched ahead, uncertain and daunting. Could something born out of secrecy ever truly survive? Could our bond withstand the harsh light of reality once others discovered our truth? Nathan softly pressed his lips to my forehead, breaking the heavy silence. Whatever happens next, he whispered, his voice steady but filled with gentle intensity. Know that my feelings for you are genuine, Sophie. No matter how complicated this becomes, that won't change. I nodded, clinging to his reassurance, yet unable to escape the growing knot of anxiety deep within. We had taken a path that left no clear way back, and the shadows of consequences loomed heavily over us. Would Vanessa sense the shift between us? Could we bear the judgment and pain our choices might inevitably bring? As I lay there, tangled in Nathan's embrace, questions without answers filled my heart. Our story wasn't finished. It had barely begun. And deep down, despite the uncertainty, I knew one thing clearly. Whatever lay ahead would test us in ways we'd never imagined. Our journey had only just begun,